Hi, everyone. In this section, we're going to talk about adulthood. So, when does adulthood actually begin? There is kind of a new period of development that people have put forward this idea of emerging adulthood. That would be roughly kind of in the range of from 18 to 25. And this is kind of due to an increased awareness that developmental changes from those who are transitioning in adulthood seem to be as people are they're either they're moving out on their own or they're kind of transitioning into work or they're all kinds of things that are going on during this period seems to kind of be a distinct period where you're going from the end of like the physical growth and sexual maturity that occurs during adolescence and ends once kind of stable patterns of work and relationships are identified. Then you have the early to middle adulthood. It's kind of roughly between 20 and 40 or so. Um, where people start to they start to get old. They start to have decline in their muscle mass and bone density and eyesight and hearing. Um, and then you have kind of this transition period around age 50, where the body and even the mind might start deteriorating at a more even rapid pace. So, what are some kind of significant things that occur during this adulthood period? So, around the world, the vast majority of people will marry or in some way form a permanent bond with a relationship partner. Um, Interesting. It seems to be that the benefits of marriage are more significant for men than for women. Um, And it's also important to kind of note that at any given time, the vast majority of people who are married report satisfaction with their marriages. People sometimes kind of contort statistics, 50% of marriages end in divorce and those kind of things, which actually isn't a real statistic. Because there's lots of ways, what does that even mean? 50% of marriages is that for any one given marriage you have a 50% chance of ending in divorce because that's not true. Is it a divorce that, within a certain time period of marriage? Is it of all marriages that have ever occurred? Anyways, the those statistics are kind of exaggerated and taken out of context for that. The majority of people who are in a married relationship report satisfaction. Another major life-changing event is the birth of children, especially the first child. Children can strain a marriage. They put a lots of demands on time and for money. And couples with children, especially those who are young children, or excuse me, in adolescence, they will report less marital satisfaction than those people who do not have children. It is a very stressful period who are dealing with raising children. As people enter into later parts of their life, many seek to find kind of meaning, especially if their life has kind of revolved around either raising children and or their careers. Um, and so, older adults, as they perceive that their time is becoming limited, they often adjust what their priorities are, and they wish to emphasize things that are more emotionally meaningful, events and experiences or goals that they have. Um, Older adults often want to savor their final years by putting their time and effort into meaningful and rewarding experiences. They want to reflect on their lives and share their memories with with others, that helps kind of put a capstone and to help them feel that they have had a fulfilled life. Um, Unfortunately, with older age, we start to see some aspects of cognitive decline. You might have a senior moment, the inability to remember something that we knew just a moment before. You can't remember something that just occurred or that you just had in your mind. Um, you might not notice cognitive declines until later adulthood, though often actually started long before they become noticeable. It's just that we often have kind of a cognitive reserve that we can still perform tasks even if we are starting to slip cognitively, because our brain is able to come up with like alternate ways to remember something or to do a task. And so we don't kind of notice these kind of small level declines until they become much larger. Older adults can take longer to learn new information, though the research shows that once they learn it, they can use that information just as efficiently as a younger person. Um, Older people do tend to have more difficulty with memory tasks that require juggling multiple pieces of information at the same time. But overall, um, you don't see when you're comparing, say, older people with younger people, you definitely see things like in reaction times and things like that, where the older you are, the slower you become. But um, like you said, once you kind of have something down, um, older people actually can do better in certain tasks, especially those that maybe require more abstract thought or thinking, which is most likely kind of related to just experience. And so they have a larger wealth of experiences to kind of draw upon that allows them to kind of reason some things and logically think some things through. Something that many older people worry about is dementia. Um, it is, this is impairments in intellectual capacity, and changes in personality, and is often due to some type of damage to the brain, whether internal or external. Um, Dementia has many different causes. Dementia is an overarching. There isn't a disease called dementia. There's many different things that fall under the classification of dementia. And these can include things like excessive alcohol take intake, or a disease like HIV or Parkinson's disease. Um, Now, the largest cause for dementia is Alzheimer's disease. About 5% of people will develop Alzheimer's disease between like 70 and 75. About 6.5% will develop it after age 85. Um, so Alzheimer's has symptomology where you have problems in memory, um, but it progressively gets worse with time, and the person can have difficulties and forgetting daily routines. It's something that many people will worry about when they have memory lapse. That they worry, oh, is this Alzheimer's? And a good kind of a pithy saying for this is that if you forget where you placed your keys, that's not to worry. There's nothing to worry about there. If you forget what a key is used for, that's when you need to start worrying. So to kind of tell you the difference in memory, that we all have these lapses of memory and we can't remember something. Um, but it's when we start having these kind of fundamental memory problems that we don't remember who someone is. We don't, or I don't know, I forget who people are all the time. But you forget what something, a common object is even used for. Those are things that can become more problematic. Um, and there is no cure for dementias, especially like Alzheimer's. There are treatments. It's one of the reasons why it does help to understand why the dementia is occurring. Some people just kind of it's like, well, if someone's experiencing memory problems, they just assume it's Alzheimer's. But knowing, having a neurologist or um, neuropsychologists who are doing evaluations and can understand um, uh, what the actual dementias are that you're dealing with can help guide things like treatments, which while they won't reverse the damage for dementia, can slow the progression of it. And this can be things like pharmacological treatments, but also there's just being mentally active, and and having exercise. These things can be protective for things like dementia. So all of this is important, to help try to preserve cognitive function as long as possible.